Are you ready for another season of Guys at the Bar Talking Sports?
Go Dogs, sick 'em. Go fight, win, kick ass, go Gamecocks.
Woo Pig Suey, go Hogs.
Go Big Blue.
Let's go Oregon, go Cox.
Go Blue.
Oh yeah, go Giants. Yeah.
Let's go Mavericks.
Who is that running out of the tunnel? No, it can't be. It's the Giant Killers, the Appalachian State Mountaineers. Let's go Webster. Go Tigers, baby. Wake up the Echoes. Go Irish.
Go Gators.
Honey, where are you going?
Where are you going?
Again? Just where are you going?
Where are you going? You're not going to the bar again, are you?
You like hanging out, drinking beer at the bar, talking sports? Come on out and join us weekly. Guys at the Bar Talking Sports, your podcast for just that. Hanging out, drinking some beer, talking sports.
Are you really doing season 4 of that stupid podcast?
Welcome to Guys at the Bar Talking Sports, the show where a bunch of people get together randomly on Wednesdays, Tuesdays, or whatever to do a show so that y'all can be entertained by us while we talk about sports. Hopefully it's entertaining. We keep having people coming back listening to the show, so and our audience continues to grow by leaps and bounds every single week. So that being said, we must be doing something right, so we appreciate y'all coming out to listen to us rant and rave and pretend like we know what we're doing. Because we don't, but we try, and that's good enough, right? Especially when we get a few beers in us. That makes it even better. So, anyway, this is Guys Bar Talking Sports. We are recording at a bar live. That's why you hear some background noise. If it's your first time listening, thank you. Subscribe to the show, and then share it with your friends and all that good stuff. We have a Facebook group as well. Everyone knows about that, except for the person that's listening that's a first-time listener, right? So subscribe to the Facebook group, join it, whatever. Let us know your favorite team, and then we'll move on. Hey, are you trying to direct traffic around here, my man? Because we don't do that. I do what as we just discussed, I do what I want to on this show, right?
Okay, well, if you want to buy us a beer...
Oh, is that what you were asking? Okay, let's go around the table and do some introductions, because I'm done talking. Ready? We got my man, the Chief, here, back again, second time in a row. What are you drinking, Chief?
I am drinking 2 parts hydrogen, 1 part oxygen.
Nice. Now, what is this? What is going on with you and not drinking? It's just you can't drink and then work the next day? It's just challenging for you?
No,
I'm going to give you hell about this every single time because you used to drink.
Have you seen how...
2 years ago when he was on the show, he would drink a ginger beer every single night. So
Have you seen how much weight I've lost?
you do look really sexy
I
right now.
only drink on the weekends.
All right. Oh, well, maybe I should try doing that. Nah, I won't do that. We got my man, the Rooster.
How's everybody doing?
You're looking very serious today, Rooster.
We're in the podcast, and I've had one more day to think about it, so now all my serious face is coming out.
Holy crap. Okay, so I gave you an extra day.
Extra day, yeah.
And all of a sudden, you're like,
Yeah.
all that pent-up anger.
And brain is just full of sports information right now.
Wow.
Yeah, I'm bringing
I
it
will
to
not do that to you again, then, all right? I will try not to do it on a Wednesday. We're sticking with Tuesdays. What are you drinking, Rooster?
I'm drinking my usual, just a little bit of bourbon and a little bit of ginger ale.
A lot of bourbon and a little bit of ginger ale?
Well, yeah, you changed up the days, so that's not the case tonight.
The perfect mix.
The perfect
It's subjective.
mix. Yeah, it's thank goodness for free pour laws coming to South Carolina circa 2005.
Yep.
Yes.
Who's your daddy?
Who's your daddy is back.
Now, you were out wearing your shirt, so I was about to forget your name. You know what I mean? But I was about to call you Bass Pro Shops, because that's the shirt you have on
I'm going fishing
today.
tomorrow. I'm on a fishing trip with my brother up to Kentucky. So
Okay, gotcha. So what are you drinking, Who's Your
I
Daddy?
got a half a glass of Miller Lite, and that's it. I'm going to ice water.
Okay. And we have Cheeks.
Hello, hello.
That is a pretty drink, Cheeks.
Thank you very much. I'm drinking a type of mimosa called a cotton candy mimosa.
You used to drink those last year too.
I did.
And I have a pale ale, Sierra Nevada pale ale, and this is your man, Hanger, chillin'. All right, so new season. We don't want to get into too many of the games that are coming up. The only game that's going to be really worth a crap to watch this weekend, maybe Notre Dame versus Navy. Obviously, I think military guys like my man here. You might be watching that game, right?
No.
But, no, you're not. All right.
Well, wait a minute.
Just
What
keep in
time
mind-
is it?
I was going to say, what
Keep
time
in
does
mind
it
that
start?
game is in Ireland, so they're going to be 5 hours ahead.
Yeah, it's probably like a 10 o'clock game,
I believe
right?
it is a 10 o'clock game.
10 a.m.?
I believe so.
Oh, that might be good.
Yeah, because last year the Nebraska game was on. I can't remember who they played, but they played in Ireland same weekend opening. It was the first game of the season, and it was at 10 or 11 o'clock in the morning.
So the Fighting Irish are in Ireland.
How ironic, right?
What's that fan? What's those fans going to look like?
Yeah, so on the Facebook group, I did.
2:30.
Oh, yeah.
It's at 2:30.
Producer just called in. It's a 2:30 game, so it must be a night game over there in Ireland.
Yeah.
Thank you guys in the back. We appreciate your help for that.
Yeah.
So, 2:30 game. Yeah, it was at midnight in Ireland? That's crazy.
No,
No, it's 7:30. It's only 5 hour difference.
Oh, okay. Gotcha. So, I think what I did is on the Facebook group, I put in, everyone put your scores and all that crap, like I've been doing for the last 3 seasons. If you guess the score, you get a beer. So go ahead and jump on that if you are listening. What I wanted to talk about, though, because I don't think that's going to be that interesting of a game, the Irish, according to my man Rooster here, are going to go all the way. So they're probably going to blow out Navy, I would assume.
Navy hasn't been very relevant over the last couple of years. As a matter of fact, thank goodness they've lost the Army-Navy game, go Army. So the last 3 years, I believe, after a pretty hot streak. So don't see the Naval Academy bringing any heat to the Irish this year. It's all a matter of management of travel, so that can play a factor. But I think the coaching staff at the Fighting Irish will be able to prevail. And if I were going to make a bold prediction, I'm going to call it 35-10.
35 to 10. Oh, I'll let you do a prediction.
Yeah.
I wasn't even expecting predictions on that today because it's not on the list.
The game is this Saturday.
I get 31-3, so I'm right behind you.
33-7. I mean,
Wow.
It's going to be in that ballpark.
yeah.
Wow.
Navy wins, baby. I'm just kidding. That's not happening.
I was going to say, we were doing, wagers of a beer at the following show, so just keep that in mind.
Yeah,
All right, no more edibles before the show.
that's right. Okay, so no more edibles and no more drinking way too much for the show. All right, new coaches this season. We always do a show on this every season, so I'm going to do new coaches, and I'm also going to do second-year coaches because that's just as relevant as a first-year coach, just because did they meet expectations somewhere? So we'll talk about a little bit about that as well. But let's go into this really fast. Matt Rhule, over at Nebraska, he came from the Carolina Panthers, got fired last season. Coached at Baylor, coached at Temple, did a great job at those programs before going to the NFL. Gets fired, now he's at Nebraska. This is a program that has not been relevant since
1999.
Yeah, basically.
Actually, that's the last time they won in Big 12.
Yeah, and considering that, like maybe a couple of years after that, they were still slightly relevant, but they haven't had a winning season, I don't think, in at least 6 years. So
They're not going to be relevant this year either.
No.
you don't think so?
No.
Okay.
They've had 2 decades of not winning. Their fan base is not looking for a Big Ten championship. Their fan base is looking to go to a bowl game.
That would be a win for
That
Matt
would be a
Rhule
win
in
for
your
Matt
mind.
Rhule.
Well,
Okay.
let's be clear here. That's a win for any first-year coach. When Beamer came on board, we said the same thing about South Carolina. And actually, we weren't expecting his first year. He did surprise us with a bowl game that year.
Yeah.
First-year coaching, it is very difficult. Coming where Matt Rhule came from to where he is going to be going at Nebraska with the talent level it's at Nebraska, it's in the trash. But not so fast. I say Matt Rhule coaching rules the day, and he's going to come on strong. We saw what he did in his previous jobs down at UCF.
Baylor and Temple.
Baylor and Temple. He's going to be able to come in and make an impact. They haven't had good coaching there in, what are we talking about, 16 years, 20 years? So I think he's going to come in, I predict, better than just 6-6 at bowl eligible, but I'm going to say they're going to go 8-5 in a weakened Big 12.
Wow.
And to your point, they're in the West. That's a week in the West.
I'm sorry, Big 10 West. Still, I mean, what's the competition? Iowa?
Yeah.
Who didn't score
Wisconsin.
Wisconsin, who's actually looking weak this year, in my opinion.
In my opinion as well. So,
that's a good segue.
And that gets into the next coach. But I did want to make a clear point on that, is that Matt Rhule did have a really good showing in the transfer portal. He was a top 10 transfer portal coach. So that being said, he was able to get the talent that he needs. I think that they could be an upset maker in the West, but I say that every year about Nebraska, and every year I've been proven wrong.
Yeah.
Well, this year you got some support, Hanger.
Thank you very much. I appreciate that. And
I think they're going to struggle to go 6-6.
Let's focus in back into Wisconsin because we brought them up, and we have Luke Fickell coming over there from Cincinnati.
Coach of the year in 2021 at Cincinnati.
Yep.
Was interim head coach at OSU coming off of Jim Tressel's disaster. He didn't have a great season. He went 6-7 at OSU.
Should have wore a vest.
Now, Wisconsin was 7-6 last season. That was a bad season for them. It was a 6-6 season with a win in a bowl game.
Yep.
I can't remember who they played. It was I can't remember who it was, but
it was a pre-Christmas bowl though.
He coached that bowl game. Fickel did.
Yeah. So, well, no, I'm saying Wisconsin, the coach that they got fired did not. Wisconsin was 6-6 with a bowl game win that made him 7-6 for the season. Luke Fickell was 9-4 last season, but did go undefeated and was the first time a group of five team got into the playoffs. So that being said, can he turn Wisconsin around? I don't think there's turning around going on because Wisconsin's been relevant for the last several years.
I think they'll be a little more relevant. I think they're going to pick up a win or two.
Not so fast.
His recruiting is strong.
So here's my issue with Luke Fickell. Some reports coming out of Wisconsin camp that they're going to be a more Cincinnati-like pass-heavy team. Okay, this is Wisconsin, outdoor stadium. It's going to be cold. You can't have a pass-heavy team with the recruiting that they have. The reason that Wisconsin has been relevant for the last 20 years, they've churned out 3 or 4 NFL running backs, and they've had an NCAA running back title in the last 20 years. You can't go into Wisconsin in an outdoor stadium, expect to be a pass-heavy team, and expect to win games in the Big Ten. It just doesn't happen.
And that's where Cincinnati was last season and the season before.
100%. So
for sure.
I think that he's going to go in. I think he's going to have to spend another year recruiting players. I see another 7-5 type of season coming for Luke Fickell this year.
Wow, okay. And they're ranked, I think they're ranked number 20 in the top 25
They are every year.
now.
They got to throw in somebody else from the Big 12 besides Michigan, Penn State, and OSU to make the Big 10 relevant. But for the last 2 years, Wisconsin has ended up outside of the top 25.
Gotcha, okay. What do you got to say about that, Cheeks? Did you look this up a little bit before? No?
I think that they will improve a little bit. I don't think you'll see anything massive. I don't think that they're going to be that relevant. They may improve by 1 or 2 games, but that's about it.
Now they have to play Iowa. Iowa's going to be better this season than they were last.
Yeah.
But I was looking at Iowa. They had a really crappy season, but they ended up 8-5. That's not a bad season for Iowa.
I think out of those 8 wins, 3 of them were because the defense and special teams scored more than the offense.
That is true, yeah.
Not kidding. Their defense was lights out.
They only averaged like 17 points a game.
Yeah, just horrendous. You can't go downhill from that.
Yeah, on offense they have to get better. Defense still looks strong, so that might be a team that can contend in the West. Wisconsin might have a fight from them, but I think Wisconsin plays either Michigan or Penn State. I can't remember which. Sometime in the season. That's the only ranked team that they're playing basically going into the season, I think. That's going to be the toughest challenge they're going to have. Luke Fickell has an easy schedule, let's just say that. Yeah. So he can go in there and get those 7 wins. Who knows? But we'll move on to Coach Prime, because that is the most hyped hire I've ever seen to a third-rate school, in my opinion. Colorado has been good in the past, right?
But 1994?
Yeah, it's been a long time, exactly. But this is a university that literally no one talks about. It's the easiest win on everyone's schedule every single season, basically. And Coach Prime goes in there. They can't even afford the guy. They pay him all this money to recruit all these people. He did have a good recruiting class. Do they make an impact in the season?
Mark Slayback of ESPN says that TCU is going to hang 100 on him on the opener on September 2nd. And you know what? I wouldn't be surprised.
And Nebraska goes in there week 2, and they'll be playing, and I don't think that they're going to be able to beat Nebraska either.
Yep.
That's my opinion. But
I also think because of all the smack talk, the Neon Dion charade that he's been doing ever since he's gotten this job, and even the attitude that he's had with the players and how he treated players that were there, they had, I think, of a roster of 68, 50 of them were either told to leave or left after he got the job. Yep. So you're talking about rebuilding an entire program and trying to initiate a program that, and I've said it before, no offense to HBSU universities, but it's not on the same status of Division I football. So I think Prime's going to have some lessons learned. I think that it's going to be a better team by the end of the season, but when you're rebuilding from scratch and trying to build a program and put 50-plus players together for the first time on the field, wouldn't surprise me if TCU hangs 100, if not more. And I also think that because of the way that Neon Dion is, that all the coaches, I bet you all they do is play clips of Deion Sanders talking smack and saying, let's be the team that goes in there. So he's going to have that target on his shoulders no matter what his record is. It's kind of like, everybody puts on their best game for the number 1 team. This is going to be a lot of teams' number 1 team to go after to make sure that they don't lose to Deion Sanders.
And they play, after they face TCU and Nebraska, they play Oregon, USC, Oregon State, and Utah. Well, Oregon, USC, and Utah, he should be a little concerned about.
Well, of course he's going to be majorly concerned about those. Yeah, USC. Yeah, he's going to be majorly concerned about those colleges and playing those schools. But I mean, all those universities, they assume that they're going to win against Colorado. That's going to be the status quo. They have Colorado like 3.5 wins this season. Who's your daddy? I want you to get your say about this.
I think it's going to be a struggle, and you can put that for the whole season for Colorado. I just think it could be 73-7 the first game. Lay 100. I mean, I think these teams will just run it up on them because of Neon Dion and the things he's done in the past. I mean, what coach in college football ridicules his players for not fighting in a team scrimmage? He ridiculed the other players not jumping in and fighting. I mean, what are we teaching here?
Yeah. I think that the expectations are super high, and I would hate to be a coach that, like we just said about Matt Rhule, right? If he goes to a bowl game, that's a win. Yep. And people are thinking Deion Sanders is going to go undefeated. Like I've heard, I mean, no real commentator would say that, but there's people in their mind when he got that job, they're like, oh, Colorado's relevant now. You don't become relevant just because of your coach.
He might be in 2 or 3 years. If he wins 4 games this year and he gets bowl eligible in his second year, he'll start doing something. He does attract some players.
And what father is going to say no to Deion Sanders coming down to their house? Hey, I'm going to come down and see your son. He's a 5-star quarterback.
It depends. Is Hugh Freeze and Matt Rhule coming to your house too?
Yeah, let's move on to Hugh Freeze then. That's a good transition. You've been taking notes on this, Chief.
Third
called
coach
rookie
in
DC.
4 years.
Good job. So Hugh Freeze, up and coming quarterback in the SEC at one point. Screwed up, made some mistakes. What was it, recruiting or some crap? Oh, taking people to strip clubs is what it was.
Is that all it was? I think there was a little bit more than that. We're going to keep it...
A little more than a strip club.
We're going to keep it kid-friendly, but he had a burner phone that had specific types of industry, the oldest industry in the world, on his phone for his players.
Yes. So he went to a Christian school to make sure that he cleanses his sins, went to Liberty, right? Came back, had some good seasons there, came back to the SEC, now he's at Auburn. What's going to happen, Chief?
Well, first of all, when he went to Arkansas State, he won 10 games in his only season there. He took Liberty to 8 wins. And
Liberty, though.
Liberty.
Yeah, Liberty ended up being ranked at one point last season.
Multiple times.
He's been a coach in the FBS for 10 seasons, only one of them losing. I think he's going to go into Auburn. I mean, Auburn's Auburn. He's going to go in there and whatever, if they were a 5-7 team, he's going to take them to 7-5.
Can they beat Alabama?
That's that. No. If he beat, I don't think they can, but if they do, he's going to have a breakout recruiting year for the following season.
And there's enough question marks on the Alabama team that if they have a shaky first half of the season, there might be a chance. This is his chance to do it, to make a mark. But, I mean, if they beat Alabama, that's a win for him.
He just got a 5-star recruit that decommitted from Alabama to Auburn. I think in time they're going to be a force.
And he calls himself the practice jerk. He says perfect practice makes perfect. He pushes them hard in practice, like maybe harder than anybody else.
What do you think, Brewster?
You know, back when I was in the Army, we had what we called field soldiers. These were guys that, when they were out in the field, or when there was trouble, they worked hard. They were the best at what they did, and they did amazing things for their unit when they were out in the field. But when they got back home, they'd go out to the bars. They'd get in bar fights. They'd get arrested all the time. You'd have to be waking up at 3 o'clock in the morning to go pick them up, and then you'd have to be in front of the CEO the next day. Hugh Freeze is a damn. He's a field coach. He's a field soldier, because the guy gets stuff done. There's no doubt about it. It's just a question mark of, is he going to get it done in the right way? If you look at what he did, what was it, at Ole Miss when he was there? He kind of made Ole Miss relevant again, to be honest.
He did, yeah. Was that 2012-ish?
Yeah. So when all that happened, I think most of the SEC coaches were happy with that, because Ole Miss was coming up pretty quick. So it's kind of ironic that it only took a couple of years for him to come back to the SEC. I don't doubt his ability to put a team on the field. I doubt his ability to do it cleanly. So we'll see what happens. I think that
he's washed of his sins. He went to Liberty.
We'll see what happens.
He was baptized.
I mean,
the whole 9 yards.
I'm not going to say I do think that people can change, but I'm interested to see if he's able to sustain it once the pressure hits. Liberty's one thing. You can take 2 and 3 star recruits and make a good team in the league that he was playing in, and he did that. Got a couple studs in there. Now you're talking about, again, you're in the big leagues again. You're in SEC. Auburn's been mediocre the last couple of years. I think he's good. I think he's going to do better than 7-5. I think they're going to be more like an 8-4 team.
This year?
Yes.
Ole Miss was 2-10 the season before Hugh Freeze was the coach. His first season there, they were 7-6. 2-10 to 7-6. I think Hugh Freeze is going to be an SEC force to be reckoned with.
8-4 at Auburn this year.
Well,
I agree with that.
Nowadays, you don't need a burner phone with some prostitutes' names on them, right? What you have is NIL money.
Or
you have a burner phone.
Get yourself a darn assistant coach. Like,
you have a burner phone. You have a burner phone that has the phone number of the local Chevy dealer on there that's going to give you a Cadillac,
sure,
and pay you some money to play.
No, I mean it's certainly. We're going to talk about NIL later on whether or not it's good or bad. There's going to be plenty of money at Auburn because they got a huge fan base and a huge alumni base. So I have no doubt that the money is not going to be an issue there. I will say that why are they pulling 5-star recruits out of Alabama? It's because you're guaranteed to play at Auburn as a 5-star recruit. Alabama, you're guaranteed to sit on the bench for a year probably.
Yeah. So speaking of teams that maybe don't have a humongous fan base and probably don't have a lot of money for their program, and it shows because they did not go search for a new coach, and that's Brent Key over at Georgia Tech. This is the interim coach of last season after they fired their coach, and they just decided to hire the guy. Why would they do that? Is that a mistake at Georgia Tech? Is this just a program that's irrelevant anyway?
More or less. Now,
should we even be talking about them on Guys at the Bar Talking Sports?
So Brent Key,
not long.
Only because they play big team.
He took them 4-4 last season, which was their first non-losing season in 4 years. His goal is like Matt Rhule's. Can I get 6 wins and get to a bowl?
Yeah, and that put there you go.
Finally, but he
got more.
He's got a hard way to get there. First of all, who's his in-state rival? Georgia, which that impacts his recruiting. Number one. Number two, he's got to face Clemson, Georgia, and Mississippi State as a typically bottom dweller ACC school.
Yeah. So
we've already spent too much time on a program that is not impactful.
Okay.
So that being said, this is a program that invested a lot of money into a coach who sadly passed away last year, and that's going to be Mississippi State. But Zach Arnett was the defensive coordinator, and now they made him the head coach. Why would Mississippi State, I mean, is Zach Arnett really that big of a name? Is that somebody that's going to create a program that's going to win? Or is this just a mistake that they're not going to get somebody like Mike Leach back?
But he also brought in the offensive coordinator from App State, too. So he's trying to redo the program. So Leach had his eye on one way to play and one way only. So Zach is doing something a little bit broader.
Okay.
With the running
they're still going to be heavy in the pass because they have their quarterback to do it.
Well,
they got Will Rogers as their quarterback, but they also brought in Mike Wright. He's a transfer from Vanderbilt.
Okay.
So the question is he a much better quarterback than Vanderbilt, and that's why he transferred, or is this just going to give him a backup quarterback who can take some snaps?
I don't know. I think that Mississippi State has the potential to do a lot this season, but I don't think that they are going to just because of the coaching. But you never know. From my understanding, the plan is, wow, it got really loud in here.
Hey, just like my kids say to me all the time, this place just got lit.
This place did just get lit.
Teresa went from one side of the bar to the other.
Oh, is that what happened?
Yeah.
All right. That's what we got. All right, second-year coaches. We're going to go into the second-year coaches because Brian Kelly made a freaking impact last season.
Absolutely.
Winning the SEC West. First year as a coach. Most people say first-year coach is good if you got them at 6-6, right?
Yeah.
As long as they're bowl eligible. Brian Kelly did something at that program. And what do y'all think? Was he an A or an F for them? And what are his expectations this season?
Definitely an A.
And I think he's a 9 or 10 win, if not already all the way to the playoffs.
Do they win the SEC? We won't get into that.
I'll say this.
Too early.
You'll say this, Rooster.
What is the last SEC West team to beat Alabama 2 years in a row?
LSU?
I don't know.
Me neither. I was just tossing it out there because I don't think it's happened in the last 20 years. Okay,
That's true.
So I think he's got his task ahead of him. I still can't get that fake Southern accent out of my mind from Brian Kelly. Okay, so I'm judging the guy based on that one. I think he was a phony. I think he is a phony. I don't think he's going to be better than 10-2.
You think he's a phony?
Don't think he's going to be better than 10-2 is really good.
80% of the teams in the country would be happy with 10-2, but this is the SEC. 10-2 doesn't get you in the playoffs.
So he was nicely buttoned up over there at Notre Dame. He always wore a tie, very professional, very proper. He's down at LSU. He's wearing board shorts and flip-flops sometimes, you know? Just not the same.
It's hot as hell down there.
Not only that, but if you've ever been down there, that's the environment. I think he's trying to adapt and adopt the environment, and fit in, which is why he had the fake Southern accent when he did his first meeting, his first presser. And
hey.
His ego. Put him
I put on a
let
fake
Lou Holtz
Southern.
come back and coach, and they can play in the Ego Bowl.
I do think that he's in his element down there. I don't feel like he's being fake. I think that, I don't know, I don't like LSU. They're always a team that plays Florida, right? But I'm a little bit jealous that they ended up getting Brian Kelly because he's a good coach. But he's not going to be around too long because he's an older guy, right? He's like 70.
I'm not sure he's that old. I think he's in the mid-60s. But again,
that gives you 20 good years if you're I mean, coaches stay around forever, right?
What's Saban, 72 this year?
Yeah.
But anyways, I just don't think that he's going to pull it off 2 years in a row. I think LSU snuck up on some people last year. They're on the radar this year. People are circling them on their calendar. I think 10-2 is probably their upside. we'll see what happens.
I think last year helped their recruiting.
Yeah. So
for real.
Winning always helps your recruiting.
So here's a team that recruited last year pretty well. Actually stole people from the transfer portal from the team that he left over in Oklahoma. And we're going to let my lady Chinks, who is that coach?
USC, Lincoln Riley.
So grade him on last season because this is a program that was irrelevant the year before.
Oh, it's definitely an A. I mean, he brought himself a quarterback who got himself a Heisman. So, and they didn't have a lot of significant loss over the last year. So they're coming back ready to go. Their guns are fully loaded and ready to shoot. And
yeah, they are ready to roll.
They finished with only 3 losses last year, and 2 of them were exactly like one play away from actually winning. So they could have had those 2 losses actually be wins. And I think he's going to come out guns a-blazing. He's going to do wonderfully in his division and then some.
The only challenge I see to this is that there's a couple of teams in the Pac-12 that can compete with them.
Yes.
Oregon, Washington, Utah, right? Those are 3 teams that, while they're not on the same level as some of the teams out east, let's be honest, right?
Right.
These are teams that can compete.
The Pac what?
Yeah, the Pac that's going to be gone in a couple, by 2 years from now, they'll be a thing of the past. So what are your thoughts on the USC? What do you think about Lincoln Riley and his grade for the season last year? And what is his expectations this year?
Again, for me, we talked about it. Week league. That's the bourbon talking. Week league. I think they're going to be at the top of the Pac-12. I mean, that's the bottom line. That may earn them a right to the playoff. They're going to be a first-round loser in the playoff. So I don't think they're there yet. As far as his grade, I mean, obviously, to Cheek's point, I think it's an A as a first-year coach. I mean, we've already talked about it. If you're a bowl-eligible team in your first year as a coach, you're doing good. So I think he was an A. I think several of the coaches that we're actually talking about probably A's and B pluses for sure. Again, when we are talking about when they play a bigger school and they still have that one seemingly mistake game where they lose that they shouldn't lose. So I'm interested to see if they can win the games that they're supposed to win in order to be the top. I think they're 11-1 by the end of the season.
Who's your daddy? You are. I mean, I'm sure you hold the Pac-12 dearly in your heart, being an Ohio State fan, having to go out to the Rose Bowl on a regular basis.
Oh, yeah.
So
really.
what do you think about this USC team?
Remember last year at one point in time we talked about USC was ranked like 12th or something, whether it was preseason. Yeah. And we said it wasn't USC, it was Lincoln Riley.
It was, yeah, we said that about that game.
Because
that ranking, yeah.
he's done a great job recruiting people and bringing them in. I just don't know if they're, now in that conference, whether they're going to be the cream of the crop or take a step forward. I don't look for them to get the playoff.
They're going to be extremely, it's going to be extremely hard for them to play against Oregon and win. That's going to be a good team this year.
And Utah is going to be a major challenge.
Yeah.
Yeah, I heard that last year.
Yes. So, one team that has a little bit of a relationship to USC since the coach came from there, and that is Oklahoma. Brent Venables came as the defensive coordinator over at Clemson. Probably what we always thought. I looked at him. I thought he was the best defensive coordinator in the country. Probably one of the best defensive coordinators ever. And then he goes to Oklahoma, and they were like 132nd in overall defense last year. What fell apart there? Did he meet expectations coming in? And what are his expectations this season to be relevant and not have the fans calling for his head?
So this is Oklahoma's last year in the Big 12, correct?
That is correct.
So you got, last year, you had a new coach on a team that's changing conferences. I think it's a perfect storm. He didn't have time to do the recruiting.
And he had a lot of defectors.
Yeah, and Lincoln Riley just
coached that team.
Yeah, and he took a lot of the good players.
Oh yeah.
So the question is his recruiting class gonna bring him back? or not.
What are your thoughts on that, Roosh?
We have to change our mindset on if you're a good DC, when you move to head coaching, you're going to have good defense. The bottom line is, as a head coach, your job is to manage your coordinators. Okay, you're the head coach. You're going to set the direction. You're going to set your expectations, and then you have other people executing. So, with all those factors that we just talked about, he was playing plenty of freshmen, sophomores, underclassmen, all that kind of good stuff. The thing that I saw toward the end of the season was a team that had fight. That means it's good head coaching. That means he's starting to build a program that believes.
Okay, yeah.
We know that he's a good coach. We know that when he's on the sidelines and he's staring, I get a little scared when if I look at a film from 3 and 4 years ago.
Yeah.
When he's staring at somebody on the field, it's like, whoa, that's intensity. Like, he's got it. So he needs to have the right players in place. He needs to be able to teach his coordinators, because that's part of it, of what his expectations are in order to field the team. I have no doubts that maybe this year, I think Oklahoma's going to have a winning schedule this year. I don't think it's going to be better than 7-5, 8-4. That's where I've got them right now.
I think it's 6-6, 7-5.
So it's somewhere in that range.
Yeah.
But even when they come to the SEC, I think it actually helps him to recruit.
Absolutely.
And I think there's been a ton of talent from Texas and Oklahoma in that Midwest range that has defected away now that they're in the SEC. I actually think it helps those teams. And a lot of people thought, well, why would they go? Well, because the Big 12 wasn't as relevant as the SEC, so a lot of Texas players, which is a hotbed for recruiting, were going over to the SEC teams. Well, now you're in the SEC, kids. Stay. You're close to home.
Got your big boy pants on. You better be ready to wear them next season.
I think Oklahoma going to the SEC hurts Nebraska, hurts Kansas, hurts Missouri, even though Missouri's in the SEC, because Oklahoma has some...
But don't forget, Texas is also going to the SEC, so you're kind of splitting that down the middle.
Right.
It's still a massive rivalry, but I'm a Venables believer. The guy is...
Wow, look at you.
And by the way, when he was at Clemson, I agree that he was the best defensive coordinator in the country by far.
By far.
Yeah.
But
just keep in mind what the role of a head coach is. It's not to be the defensive coordinator / head coach. It is to teach people how to be the best in their coordination roles. People like Saban, people like Kirby Smart. Kirby Smart came up through Saban for crying out loud.
Yeah.
So good head coaches make good coordinators to make good coaches again.
Yeah.
So that's where Venables is right now. Again, we just talked about the things that he had going on. I believe that give him 2 to 3 years. I think Oklahoma's going to be relevant again.
You got to have recruiting is by far number one. You got to have some more filet mignon and get rid of the hamburger and bologna.
There you go.
To be a winning coach.
So who's your daddy? Back when Marcus Freeman became the coach at Notre Dame, I don't know if you remember me saying this, but I said that was a dumb choice because he had no coaching experience really. He was like a year as an offensive coordinator at Notre Dame at best, right?
I agree, and I think the reason some of these schools have named a coordinator or staff person, it'll help keep
some of the players around
together,
okay.
And not exit out on the transfer portal. Like, look at Oklahoma. What happened there?
Yeah.
I mean, you can look at
Brian Kelly could have poached that whole team.
Yes, and I think by keeping Freeman there, they were able to keep kids intact. I don't know his youth and not ever being a head coach probably would affect him in close games. I don't know if he's going to be able to win the big game yet.
For a team like Notre Dame, that was my biggest complaint is this is a school that has high expectations. This is a college that is going to be 9-3 every season, right?
And they're making money.
They have an amazing television contract on their own.
They're getting money from the ACC and the TV contract they got with NBC, I think it is, ratings.
Yeah. But he met expectations, exceeded expectations for me last year. And then my man Rooster here has them going into the top 4 this season. So what are you thinking about this Marcus Freeman guy, man?
Look, so we kind of skipped over it about Mississippi State. They chose their defensive coordinator to bring him up. They did the same thing with Freeman. There is something to be said about bringing somebody up. And I'm going to use an example that made a lot of, it's an NFL example. But you had a head coach over there at Panthers that was doing something different last year as the interim head coach. His name escapes me. He's a former Appalachian State coach as well, so Pegan's probably going to yell at me for not remembering his name. But he started ground and pounding, and he started running 200, 300 yards worth of rushing on offense against the NFL, which you don't see that anymore.
Yeah.
And then they told him, no, go ahead and go. And then they bring in some schlepphead that's going to be coaching the Panthers to a 4-10 season. I think that some of these universities that are bringing some of their coordinators up when there's unexpected losses from the head coaching ranks, and they've already got the players' trust, so you don't have mass exodus like you do in some of the other places when you're bringing on an outside guy. So you stabilize your program a little bit, you believe in them, you give them confidence. I think Freeman was my B+ for last year. Did not quite, in the beginning, had a couple of tough losses for Notre Dame. But, again, another program, similar to Venables. As the season went on, that team started to believe a little bit more and a little bit more and a little bit more. They were a good team by the end of the season.
Yeah.
And now they have a star quarterback.
Yeah, they do.
And their line is probably the only line outside of the SEC that competes with the SEC, to be honest with you, both on offense and defense, and that makes a difference. Because you look at Georgia, who's been bulldozing people at 320 pounds average per offensive lineman.
Yep.
Well, guess what? Notre Dame stacks up with those stats. Notre Dame offensive line averages about 312.
Yeah. So
That'd be a great game.
this is not the official part of the show where we go to it, but I'm going to start just calling it out in the middle of the show, and you better be on your toes.
Okay.
Be ready for your what the fuck, cheeks, what the fuck.
So my what the fuck.
You knew she was ready. She was the one that asked the question.
I was just doing that because I knew that you guys would not be ready.
We're
ready.
preparing you guys.
What the fuck? What the fuck, Chief?
How about the Yankees losing 9 straight for the first time in 41 years?
What the fuck, Yankees? That's crazy.
Yeah.
It's a very short section of the show. You just say what you got. What the fuck, Cheeks? But she always has like 3.
Mine is Lou Holtz. What the
Cheeks
hell?
always
Lou
has
Holtz?
3 of them.
So, no, I only have one this time. It's
Okay.
Lou Holtz coming out with his own top 16. Everybody else comes out with 25. He comes out with 16. Georgia is not number 1. Georgia's number 5 on his starting top 16. He's got Michigan number 1. USC, University of Southern California, is number 2. I think he might have hit his head.
All right.
Yeah.
Well, here's what you don't know about Lou Holtz is if you speak Lou Holtz language, Michigan actually means Georgia. Okay, it's a little bit of a lisp, and the tongue's getting bigger in his mouth. That's why you had to leave the
His words up.
Yeah. Okay.
So back to the coaching side of it, because we're gonna get off what the fuck for a minute, because this is a random occurrence that you say in the middle of the show, right? You can say it to me if you want to. I don't care. Like, I might say it to you twice. I might say what the fuck twice. So you
I'm
better be
ready for
ready.
that, too.
All right. So Tom Garretts, listener question. Tom Garretts asked, which first year, and we were on the first year coach things, right? Which first year coach has the best record at the end of the season? And then the ones that we went through, Coach Prime, Luke Fickell, Hugh Freeze, Brent Key, and Zach Arnett. For me, it's definitely going to be Luke Fickell. Then you got Matt Rhule at Nebraska. But actually, I think Matt Rhule is going to be the winningest coach at the end of the season.
Of course, you always say that.
Yeah.
I'm always high on the horse for the Gators and Nebraska at the beginning of the
I
season.
know, you're such a homer.
Luke Fickell.
Mine's Zach. Zach Arnett's mine.
Okay. Who's your daddy?
I'll say Fickell too because of their schedule.
Yeah, because of their schedule. And what do you think?
Not so fast. I'll go with Freeze. I said he's going to win 8 games. I'm going to say he's going to win 9 games. None of those other coaches are going to win 9 games.
Chopper would be proud. He'd have a proud moment right
I
now.
think Arnett's going to go at least 9. So.
All right. Listener question number 2. Did I have a number 2?
Yes, you do.
All right, so say it for me. What is it, Cheeks?
Chief wanted to do it. Remember?
Chief,
yeah.
give me a listener question number 2.
Okay, Bobby Wilkins asked, if we had relegation in college football, what D1 team or teams in Power 5 conferences should be relegated to the Group of 5 or the FCS?
You have a lot to say about this, so I'm going to let you take it away.
It's not relevant. It won't happen here.
Why?
Because it just doesn't. It's all about television revenue.
Say it exactly how you said it earlier to me. And let my boy Bobby Wilkins know what you mean.
So we're not going to see any schools moving down a conference. because they have a losing season, we're not going to see any schools moving up. It's just the way it works.
It's just the way it works. I agree. Good question, though. It's actually, I mean, that's how they do it in soccer over in the UK.
And actually, that would be kind of cool in pro sports if we did that here in the U.S. for certain things.
But maybe he wants to write a little piece and we'll put it on the site.
Yeah. Let's jump down to NIL.
Oh, God.
We're a year in to NIL. Lots of things happening. Coaches are confused about it. Nick Saban's in Washington trying to pass laws based upon NIL recently. What are y'all's thoughts on NIL? I know that my man Who's Your Daddy has a lot to say about this, so I'm going to let you take it from here, Who's Your Daddy.
I just think you get to... It's unfair to begin with due to the fact that some conference universities are located in cities where the revenue is much greater or the fan base is much greater from a revenue standpoint. So it's almost like a bidding war in this, getting players to leave, and you wonder why a kid goes from Alabama, decommits and goes to Auburn. Well, it's a bidding war. You never know what goes on behind the scenes. But I promise you, it's about the almighty dollar. And,
that's true.
I don't know how now that they've got it to this position, how they're ever going to rein it back.
They have to figure out some way to control the money.
Well,
I don't know. I haven't figured this out yet.
Before it ever come about.
Yeah.
It was just illegal.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean,
Right.
And now it's. I mean, I remember the big talk back in Florida State days was that the car dealers around the area would pay for all the teams' all the players' cars. They'd give them a lease for 4 years or whatever on these vehicles. So it happened before, but now.
I mean, they like the NCAA would get so pissed off at Kentucky, they put Western Carolina on 3 years probation for some minor violation they did.
Yeah.
That's an extreme.
Right, but
because they couldn't find out what the big universities were doing.
But here's the thing: if you look at the premier programs in D1, so you're talking SEC, you're talking Big Ten, a couple of schools from the Pac-12, a few Big 12 schools, and maybe one or two ACC schools. When you look at it from that, there's only one starting quarterback on every team. There's a couple of backup quarterbacks. There's so many star running back positions, and so if you're a strong player, and you're not getting picked up at your first choice school, you're going to find a school.
So you're shopping around. Of course.
I mean, you want the most NIL, but you also want the school that's going to play for the school that's going to get you to the next level.
Yeah, for sure.
I mean, who cares if Mississippi State pays more than anybody, but you're on a team that's not going to get you visibility or potential NFL.
And there's a lot of things that these players are taking into account. Rooster, you have got to say something about NIL.
No, I'm actually just going to disagree with Chief a little bit. If you look at the NFL, after your first 5 picks, you get schools from all over the country. So those scouts are out there. Yeah. They're picking up people left and right.
Well, that's what I'm saying, though. You still have to be on a team that can do something.
Yeah, not necessarily. The Eagles picked up a rugby player from Australia.
Yeah, if you're a freak athlete and you're going to stick out, there's going to be a scout that finds you.
Right.
So
right.
I mean, bottom line is the NIL, the question is the NIL good for college football? And I'm going to actually say no, it's not.
No.
And it's because of we're creating just it's just a mini D-League, in my opinion, is what it turns into. So there was a time where you took pride in
pretty big D-League with 133 teams.
Sure, but back in the day, it was an honor to go to college for 4 years. Now we're teaching kids you don't go to college for 4 years anymore. Not football, you have to stay in for 3, and that's only because they don't get killed out there in the NFL. So you got a college education. You were one of, I don't know, less than 1,000 people that had out of 133 schools. You got rosters. You're talking about 60, 70,000 kids, or even 6,700 kids. Only the top 1,000 maybe are going to go get in the NFL. Even then, out of that, 600 or so are going to go to a practice team. What we're really talking about here is kids are, in their minds, are just sacrificing their bodies to play football, and they're getting injured and all that kind of good stuff. and they want to get paid, and that's all there is to it, and that's what this is all about. I think the NCAA encouraged some of this on themselves by having too strict of rules.
Yep, I agree with that.
If the NCAA, I know kids right now that won't go play in the NCAA because they just want to be able to live their life a little bit.
Yeah.
Now you're talking about if you're going to be in the, there still is that, if you're going to be in it, it's a full-time job. Well, why not pay these kids? Yeah. So has the NIL been good? No, I don't think so. Could the NCAA had prevented NIL by just saying, let's make sure that these kids do what they're supposed to do during season, and then for the rest of the time, they're not on NCAA time.
It's a bass-backwards way of paying these guys when they could have just paid them.
Or not even paid, just let them be kids. Or allowances or something.
100%.
Like,
these are amateurs. Do not pay an amateur.
But hang on, we're going to keep going on this just for a second, because if you look at it, you have lifting 6 a.m., you have breakfast 7:30 a.m.
It's a job.
You have class, you have study hall, you have dinner, you have practice. Like, it's a job, and that's a stipend of some sort, just so these kids could live. And no doubt about it, there's a lot of kids that are those freak athletes that we're talking about that came from very little. Yeah. And now, you tell them go buy your own lunch or whatever. They're looking at you like, I don't have the money to go buy my own lunch.
Yeah.
What are you talking about? Yeah. I don't have I can't buy some of this extracurricular stuff.
They can't even buy crab legs. I mean, jeez. It's like,
regardless, but if you're stars for a SEC football team and you're reverting to stealing crab legs, not that was that instance in what you're talking about, but like that's
a problem.
You can't buy a movie ticket,
right? I mean, so there should have been something that said, okay, we're going to allow these kids to do something, and it would have avoided all the things that we're talking about, because now it's like, the highest bidder is the one that gets to win. Yeah. And nobody likes that either because it's an amateur sport.
That's right.
The NCAA created the problem.
We got to move on. We got 10 minutes left that we can record for. And this is what I'm going to ask right here. This is going to be a one team and a quick response. But which team is not in the preseason top 25 that you think is going to be in there and climb for the next 5 weeks? Chief. Do you have any thoughts on that?
No.
You don't? Okay.
That was not on your list.
It was not on my list? I believe Who's Your Daddy asked this question to me.
I have it.
Okay.
So, I wanted to know what sleeper team that you thought might be strong. I didn't say anything about the rating.
Sleeper team.
So
sleeper team, I got an answer.
I don't have a sleeper team, but the question was, who's not in the top 25 that's going to climb up?
No,
that's
I didn't say anything about the top 25.
But I try to change it a little bit, I guess, then.
So my team that's not in the current top 25 that is going to finish maybe in the top 15, I'll say top 17 right now, University of South Carolina Gamecocks.
Yeah, baby! All right. So here's mine.
Did not expect that.
Since I kind of blew you guys off on a question that you guys that screwed you all up, I guess. So I think it's going to be the Kansas Jayhawks. And the reason why I say this is because they are returning 17 starters from a team that went 5-0 to start the season that was ranked in the top. I think they were ranked in the top 15 at one point. Now, they did lose the next 3 or 4 games after that, which kind of fell apart. But this is a team that has potential to go 6-0, 7-0 right off the bat. And then they get into the hard part of their season. But that's going to put them in a position to get into that top 25 and then move their way up. And then they might fall back after that. So that's who I'm saying. And nobody would expect that, right?
No, I didn't.
So I was just looking it all up. Okay.
So unfortunately, South Carolina is not going to be in the top 25 because my sleeper team is Drake May and the University of North Carolina.
And they're going to
top
be
25.
They're already in the top.
They're the sleeper team who is going to be a powerhouse at the end of the season.
And that's my last call.
But they're not a sleeper.
Your sleeper team. Who's your sleeper team?
I don't have one.
You don't have one. Who's your daddy? Your sleeper team.
I was thinking South Carolina as well.
South Carolina, okay. I think it's going to be Texas A&M is the sleeper team that no one's people are expecting it a little bit, but there's a team that had a crappy season last year. They're going to have a great season this year. They might be competing for the SEC West.
I think they're going to have a new head coach after the 6th game.
All right.
Mine is Florida. No, I'm kidding.
Thank you. We gotta say Florida at least once per.
Right, and I was shocked you didn't say that.
That's three times.
Ray got so excited when Cheeks just said that. Excuse me, Hanger got so excited when Cheeks just said that.
I got them going 10-2. So
yeah, of course you do.
I'm clearly delusional.
You had them undefeated last year, as a matter of fact.
Yeah, and I'm clearly delusional.
They're going to lose 2 games this year.
Yeah,
they're only losing 2.
They're their first 2.
I really think it's going to be Mississippi State.
That's a good choice because that's one of the teams on my list as well because they do have a lot of returning starters. They also have, but then again, the new coach thing really blows that up.
You lose the Mike Leach edge. I don't care what anybody
definitely
says.
lose the Mike Leach edge. So, thank y'all for coming out. This was an extended show. We went about 5 to 10 minutes longer than we normally do, but that's good because our listeners love listening to us talk, don't they?
Yeah.
All 12
we'll see about the comments tomorrow.
All 12 of the listeners love hearing us talk. So thank y'all for coming out. Thank everyone for listening to Guys at the Bar Talking Sports. Y'all know the name of the show. It's Guys at the Bar Talking Sports. And what do guys do when they talk sports at the bar? They drink beer. So if you want to buy us a beer, you can Venmo us. The Venmo is at Guys at the Bar Talking Sports.